blessing or curse, prosperity or decline. For American policymakers, every decision regarding Israel is more than a geopolitical calculation. It is a choice that could determine the nation's destiny. Echoing an ancient warning that has resounded for 400 years. Why America supports Israel. An argument from covenant, prophetic history, and geopolitical destiny. On the intricate chessboard of international politics, the alliance between the United States and Israel stands as one of the greatest and most enduring geopolitical enigmas. Amid shifting alliances, changing administrations, and global pressure, Washington's support for Jerusalem remains astonishingly steadfast. Analysts often cite pragmatic reasons, strategic interests, shared democratic values, the influence of lobby groups. These explanations, however, while valid, fail to reach the heart of the matter. They are akin to describing a skyscraper by analyzing only its outer coat of paint while ignoring its steel frame and bedrock foundation. To truly decipher this bond, we must dare to enter a realm many modern analysts avoid, the realm of theology, of ancient covenants, and of prophecies believed to be unfolding daily. This is an argument that the foundation of the U.S.-Israel alliance rests not on the shifting sands of politics, but on the bedrock of a divine plan laid out millennia ago. Part 1. The Unbreakable Foundation, the Abrahamic Covenant. Everything begins here. The covenant God made with Abraham is not merely a historical event for the Jewish people, for believers in the Bible. It is an eternal spiritual law that governs the destiny of nations. The unconditional and eternal nature of the covenant. It is crucial to understand that the Abrahamic covenant is unconditional, unlike the Mosaic covenant made at Mount Sinai, which was contingent on Israel's obedience. If you obey, the Abrahamic covenant depends solely on the faithfulness of God alone. In Genesis 15, we witness an ancient ceremony where God, symbolized by a smoking firepot and a flaming torch, passes between dissected animal halves. In the culture of that day, this was how two parties made an unbreakable oath. The fact that God alone passed through signifies that he bears the full responsibility for fulfilling the promise, regardless of the future actions of Abraham or his descendants. Are the three pillars of the covenant. This covenant consists of three primary promises, like three unshakable pillars. The people. I will make you into a great nation. Genesis 12:2. From one man and a barren woman, a people was born, surviving every pogrom, assimilation, and exilia, sociological and historical miracle, the land. This is the most politically contentious aspect, yet the clearest in biblical terms. The land was not a conditional reward, but an everlasting possession. Genesis 17:8. Even when the people of Israel were disobedient and scattered, their title deed to the land was held in trust by God. Deuteronomy 30:3-5 prophesies that after being scattered, the Lord himself will gather you again from all the nations. He will bring you to the land that belonged to your ancestors, and you will take possession of it. This is a specific promise of return to that very land. The blessing. This is the pillar that directly links to other nations, including the United States. I will bless those who bless you, and whoever curses you, I will curse. Genesis 12:3. This is considered a universal principle. Nations and empires throughout history are believed to have risen or fallen based on how they treated the Jewish people and God's plan for them. Part 2. The Prophetic Tapestry of Israel's history. If the Abrahamic covenant is the blueprint, then the history of the Israeli people is the tumultuous construction process, with every stage astonishingly foretold. Dispersion and desolation, a foretold judgment. The Bible does not hide the fact that disobedience would lead to punishment. Centuries before the Romans arrived, Moses warned, Deuteronomy 28:64, Then the Lord will scatter you among all nations, from one end of the earth to the other. Leviticus 26-33. I will scatter you among the nations. Your land will be desolate, and your cities a ruin. For nearly 900 years, this prophecy was tragically fulfilled. The Jewish people were exiled, and the land of Israel became barren and desolate. The writer Mark Twain, visiting the land in 1867, described it as a desolate country whose soil is rich enough, but is given over wholly to weeds, a silent, mournful expanse. The miraculous return, a nation born in a day. The re-establishment of Israel in 1948 is not seen merely as a political event. It is considered the greatest miracle of the modern era, a direct fulfillment of prophecy. Isaiah 66-8. Who has ever heard of such things? Who has ever seen things like this? Can a country be born in a day, or a nation be brought forth in a moment? This rhetorical question was answered with a resounding yes on May 14. Ezekiel 37, the Valley of Dry Bones. The powerful vision of dry bones reassembling, being covered with tendons and flesh, and receiving the breath of life, serves as a perfect metaphor for the national rebirth of a people long thought dead. The rebirth of the land and the language. The miracle did not stop with the gathering of the people, but extended to the revival of the land itself and their language, the revival of the land. Isaiah 35:1 promises, the desert and the parched land will be glad. The wilderness will rejoice and blossom like the crocus. Today, Israel is a world leader in agricultural exports, with drip irrigation technology that has made the desert bloom, fulfilling this prophecy in the most literal sense. The revival of the language. Hebrew was a dead language for nearly 0 years, used only in religious liturgy. Yet, Zephaniah 3:9 promises, then I will purify the lips of the peoples, that all of them may call on the name of the Lord. The efforts of Eliezer ben Yehuda and others revived Hebrew, making it the national language of Israel, an unparalleled linguistic phenomenon. Part 3. Israel at the epicenter of end-time prophecy. With Israel re-established, the prophetic clock is believed to have started a new countdown toward the climax of human history. Israel and Jerusalem become the focal point of final events. The burdensome stone of Jerusalem. Zechariah 12:2-3 has become one of the most geopolitically relevant prophecies of our time. Jerusalem becoming a cup that sends all the surrounding peoples reeling, and an immovable rock for all the nations that injures all who try to move it, is a perfect description of the endless debates at the United Nations. The UNESCO resolutions denying Jewish heritage in Jerusalem, and the stalemate of peace negotiations. The U.S. recognition of Jerusalem as Israel's capital under President Trump is seen by many as an act that increased the weight of this rock. Accelerating prophetic events are the coming invasion, the Gog-Magog war. Ezekiel 38-39 pascals hints a terrifying scenario of a coalition of nations that will attack Israel. The list of nations: Persia, Iran, Kush, Sudan, Put, Libya, Gomer and Togarmah, Turkey, and their geographic locations to the north and south align disturbingly with geopolitical alliances forming today. The prophecy states this invasion will happen when Israel is living in safety. The climax of the war is not a human victory, but a direct, divine intervention. I will pour down torrents of rain, hailstones and burning sulfur on him and on his troops. Ezekiel 38-22, the final battle. Armageddon. Many misunderstand Armageddon as a world war. According to Revelation 16:16, Armageddon, from Har Megiddo, Mount Megiddo, is the staging ground for the world's armies. They gather in the valley of Megiddo in Israel, not to fight each other, but to engage in the final battle against Christ at his second coming. Israel, once again, is the central stage for the final confrontation between good and evil. Part 4. America's fateful choice. So, where does the United States fit into this grand picture? Is a nation conceived with a biblical worldview. The very foundation of the United States was steeped in the Bible. The first Puritans saw themselves in Israel's story, escaping persecution in Egypt, Europe, to come to a promised land, the New World. Founding fathers like John Adams and Thomas Jefferson were deeply versed in the Old Testament. Consequently, there is a natural, historical, and cultural empathy between the American story and the Israeli story. The principle of blessing and cursing in history. Theologians often point to historical patterns to prove the principle of Genesis 12:3. The Spanish Empire reached its zenith of power in the 15th century, but after the 1492 Alhambra decree expelled all Jews, the empire began a long, irreversible déclin. The British Empire, after being given the mandate over Palestine, Britain issued the 1939 White Paper, severely restricting Jewish immigration at the very moment they most needed a safe haven from the Holocaust. After World War II, the British Empire crumbled. The United States, conversely, America rose to global superpower status during the same period. It most strongly supported the establishment and defense of the State of Israel. For many, this is no coincidence. The modern-day watchman on the wall, the evangelical Christian community in America, numbering in the tens of millions, acts as a spiritual and political watchman. Organizations like Christians United for Israel, CUFI, led by Pastor John Hagee, wield enormous political influence, constantly reminding policymakers of their biblical obligation to support Israel. They view supporting Israel not as a foreign policy option, but as an act of worship and obedience to God. Final conclusion. When we step back and look at the entire picture from the Abrahamic covenant to today's headlines, from ancient prophecies to modern military movements, a powerful argument emerges. The U.S.-Israel alliance is not the product of a few decades of pragmatic politics. It is the culmination of a 4,000-year-old story. From this perspective, America's support is more than just a policy. It is an acknowledgement of Israel's role as God's prophetic clock for the nations. It is a conscious choice to side with what is believed to be God's side in redemptive history. It is a calculated wager, staking the nation's future on an ancient promise. I will bless those who bless you. So, the next time you see the United States veto an anti-Israel resolution at the UN, or send billions in military aid, remember that behind the political calculations lies a deep and powerful conviction, a belief that they are not just protecting an ally, but participating in the fulfillment of a divine destiny and that their own fate may very well depend on it.